Yeah, a very warm good morning to one and all present here. Before we start, we request all the participants except the speakers to turn off their audio and video to have the smooth conduct of the program. Now we will start the program with the Jain Mahamantra, which will be followed by Tamil Taivad. Now I request Professor Sumitra, Assistant Professor, Department of Philosophy, Agarthan Manual Jain College, to deliver the welcome address.
Warm greetings to everyone present here. On behalf of Agathan Manual Jain College, I proudly welcome you all to the ICPR Periodical Lecture Series 2021. Due to the pandemic situation, we are organizing the lecture in online platform. With great honor and pleasure, I would like to welcome the chief guest of today's event, Dr. Priyadarshana Jain, Head Department of Jainology, University of Madras. She will be delivering the lecture titled Contribution of Jainism to Indian Philosophy. Dear ma'am, we wholeheartedly welcome you to the program. With a great pleasure, we delighted welcome our another chief guest, Dr. K.R. Murugan, Assistant Professor, Department of Philosophy, RKM Vivekananda College, Mylapore. He will be delivering the lecture titled Saiva Siddhanta and Introduction. I'm glad to welcome our Secretary Shantimullar and management members. I warmly and respectfully welcome our Principal Dr. Venkataramanan, who has been pillar behind this event. My genial welcome our Vice Principal Dr. M. Mahavi. I feel happy to welcome Dr. S. Manikandan, Head Department of Philosophy, who has been backbone of this program. I heartily welcome our Head Department of History, Dr. Anantha Krishnan. Welcome, sir. I extend my welcome to all the heads of department who are gathered here to have variance to occasion. I am happy to welcome Office Superintendent Mr. Ravichandran and non-teaching staff members. I also welcome all the participants, research scholars from different parts of the country. I welcome our students of philosophy department. I hope the program will be great and successful. Once again, I welcome you here. Thank you.
Hello.
Thank you, Sumitra. Now I request our beloved principal, Dr. N. Venkatramanan, to deliver the presidential address.
Namaste and Very good morning to all the dignitaries. First of all, on behalf of the management, Vice Principal Dr. Mahavir, Philosophy Department, and all the staff members, a very good morning to all of you. The program has been organized by the Philosophy Department, and it is a 6-day webinar series with 2 speakers on each day. It's a pleasure to have Dr. Priyadarshana Jain amidst us, who will give her lecture on contributions of Jainism to Indian philosophy, followed by Dr. K.R. Arumugam, Assistant Professor, Department of Philosophy, RKM Vivekananda College, who will be speaking on the topic Saiva Siddhanta, an introduction. Thank you to both the speakers of the day for making yourself available and responding to our call to be amidst us to share your knowledge and thoughts on the subject. It's my duty to really thank the Philosophy Department, which has always been at the forefront of organizing such programs, and even during this pandemic, they have been able to bring in some of the best speakers from all over India. This was scheduled to be organized sometime earlier, but due to the untimely demise of our beloved Secretary, Sri Sadharmalji Chodia, we were not able to conduct the program. The university examinations were on, but the Philosophy Department has finished its university examination, and they are organizing it as a webinar series for all. I thank the organizers, Dr. Manikandan, Dr. Prasanna Kumar, Dr. Sumitra, for taking all the effort to stitch in such an interesting schedule for the next 6 days. I also thank Dr. Ananta Krishnan, Head of the Department of History, for being there to guide them all through in this. Thank you so much for calling me over. I welcome Madam once again. Thank you so much for calling me over today, and it will be a pleasure to be listening to the speakers. Thank you, Manikandan sir, and thank you, my dear colleagues. Namaste.
Thank you, dear sir. Now I request Dr. S. Manikandan, the HOD, Department of Philosophy, Agachan Manmal Jain College, to introduce the theme and also to introduce the first speaker of the day. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Prasanna. I happily welcome you all for Adi Shankara's birth anniversary, which has been celebrated as Indian Philosophers Day, and ICPR has granted us this program, and this has been scheduled from 15th, that is from 15th July to 21st July, 6-day program. Each day we have 2 lectures from the eminent speakers across our country. Today we are starting with Priyadarshana Jain Madam and Dr. Arumugam from RKM Vivekananda College. I welcome you all for the first day program. Before I start, I want to brief about our department. The Department of Philosophy, Agachan Manmal Jain College, was established in 1982. It offers an undergraduate course. At present, about 210 students are pursuing towards the degree program. The department has competent faculty members with a high degree of excellence who keep pace with the current development in the field of specialization. Even during the pandemic, the department has organized so many webinars, national level webinars. On 15th June 2020, we organized a webinar on philosophical reflections on COVID-19. Another webinar was organized introducing philosophy in Tamil on 2nd July 2020. The department has so far conducted 6 periodical lecture series, which has been sponsored by Indian Philosophical Research. ICPR. Recently, we conducted a last periodical lecture series on 23rd March to 25th March 2021 as a webinar series due to the pandemic. This is the first time the Indian Council of Philosophical Research has sanctioned for Indian Philosophers Day to our department, and we are very much happy to conduct this program. And even the department had an fortunate enough to get the book grant sanctioned by ICPR. So we can proudly say that the department has taken all the necessary steps to make use of the opportunity provided by ICPR. We are greatly indebted to ICPR for their support, encouragement towards our endeavor. The aim of Indian Philosophers Day, now I'm introducing the theme. The aim of Indian Philosophers Day. The aim of Indian Philosopher Day is to promote Indian philosophy among the students, the young minds of our country. The Indian Philosophers Day is celebrated to commemorate the birth anniversary of Adi Shankara Charya on Panchami Tithi of Vaikasha Shukla Paksha. This was initiated by Sringeri Mutt, established by Adi Shankara in 8th century in Karnataka, and is in favor of promoting Shankaracharya commentary on Upanishads and its role in generating awareness about Indian philosophy and Advaita. This was first proposed to the government of India to be celebrated as Adi Shankara's birth anniversary as an Indian Philosopher's Day, while Kerala and Karnataka has accepted the Mutt proposal in 2005, but later the government of India accepted it only in 2015 onwards. It is believed that Adi Shankara conceived the idea of Char Dhamma, which the four holy destinations of the God in four directions in India: Badrinath, Rameswaram, Puri, and Dwaraka. He had a philosophical discussion with scholars. The knowledge of Indian philosophy inculcates in a person the habit of reflecting on one's life, thought, action, on what is happening in a society of which he is a member and in the world community of which his society is competent. It is surely doing some practical and purposeful. The philosophical element of Indianness enable one not only to judge and decide for oneself on religious, moral, and social and political problems, but to express oneself appropriately, hopefully, even to act meaningfully in a different situations. The Indian Philosophers Day need a uniqueness, and it is what that we have to celebrate, and we salute ICPR for encouraging the department, the philosophy department, to celebrate Indian Philosophers Day. The main characteristics of Indian philosophy are perennialism, universalism, cosmopolitanism, and materialism. All religion are accepted, multicultural, multilinguistic nature, unity in diversity in geographical and variations in culture, historical, food and dress, and so on. All system, that is all 6 systems of Indian philosophy, accepts a view of the great world rhythm, creation, maintenance, dissolution. They follow each other. Transcendental consciousness of a self, intuition, revelation, cosmic congregation. Realization of the eternal truth, spiritual orientation, naturalness of life, practice of yoga, meditation, salvation, moksha, intellectualism, wisdom, discussion, debates. Faith in past, faith in action, faith in karma, faith in God, surrender to God, faith in rebirth, synthesis in religion and philosophy, ignorance as a root cause of suffering, a philosophy as a practical necessity, a belief in eternal and moral order. These are some specific or uniqueness of the Indian philosophy. So it deserves a day to be celebrated as Indian Philosophers Day, and such a day is being celebrated today. In our department, and we are really happy and happy to have all the participants across our country. Now, my duty is to introduce the chief guest or the speaker of the day, Dr. Priyadarshan Jain. Madam, we welcome you Dr. Priyadarshini Jain from Rajasthan, living in Chennai, is an MA, MPhil and PhD in Jain Studies, Diploma in Prakritic and Certified Naturopathy. At present, she is serving a professor and head of the Jainology, University of Madras, Chennai. She has been practicing Jain and teaching Jainism for the past 30 years and Prakriti for past 20 years. She has traveled extensively to USA, UK, Thailand, Hong Kong, all over the India, giving talk, lectures and discourses. She is a resource person for International School for Jain Studies, where she has been teaching foreign scholars for past 12 years. She also served as a director of the Buddhist Studies at the University of Madras and is a member of Academic Council and many prestigious academic bodies. She has organized and conducted many national, international seminars and workshops related to Jainism, Buddhism, holistic healing and meditation and etc. She has presented papers at many national and international seminars, conferences in English and in Hindi. She was a part of an interfaith religious delegation sponsored by US Department of State, wherein she represented Jainism at the different cities in USA. She is a coordinator of Aruga Boy Labama, a fitness and wellness program conducted online in which more than 250 people participate across the globe, USA, UK, Australia, Singapore, Dubai, Qatar and different parts of India participated and benefited in past 3 months. She has written, edited, translated, published books and articles. She is a resource person for Program Honors, a course wherein she is currently handling 4 batches internationally. Empowering youth holistically is her mission and passion. Empowering youth holistically is her mission and passion. She specializes in teaching comparative Jainism and religious thought, integrating ancient and modern. Madam, none can fulfill you in delivering a lecture on Jainism. Myself and my students are eagerly waiting for your lecture.
Yes, sir.
Prasanna, can I introduce Dr. Arumugam sir? Otherwise, we will introduce him later.
I think after Matt's presentation, we will introduce Arumugam sir, and then we'll have his presentation.
Okay.
So thank you so much, sir. Thank you for your kind words. Now I request Dr. Priyadarshini Jain to deliver his presentation. Over to you, ma'am. Thank you.
Yes, sir. It is 10:22 now. By what time you want me to stop, sir? So that accordingly I can deliver.
Please, ma'am, you can take 45 to 1 hour, ma'am.
Okay, fine. Thank you. Am I audible? Yes, I'm audible. Good morning, everybody. And respected members, management, principal, and of AM Jain College, and Professor Ananthakrishnan sir, Manikandan sir, and all the other faculty members of AM Jain College, students, and the guest participants. I extend my greetings on this fine morning, and I'm happy that AM Jain College is conducting this webinar and this lecture series on Indian philosophy, which is a very, very important exercise. It has always been my dream, to see the youth doing philosophy, studying philosophy. So I come to the college to see the students of the philosophy department. So I'm very delighted about it. And I extend my warm greetings to all the student community, the entire student community who's gathered here to listen to philosophy in this materialistic age. When we are, materialistically, we are very advanced, technologically, scientifically, we have progressed, we have come a long way. And in spite of all the things at our touch button, in spite of having all the things ready at our access, still we seem to be confronted with multiple challenges at different levels. If you see the newspapers are full of news of the mental well-being of man today. Even though we are technologically sound, somewhere we feel that we have not tamed the mind of man. And man has failed to master the mind. He's become a slave of the lower mind. So here the role of philosophy is very, very important to help man to move in the right path. In the absence of philosophy and religious thought sans all dogmatism. Okay, it is very important to have a philosophical mind sans the religious dogmatism to progress on the path of peace and harmony. So here I stand before you to deliver the lecture on contribution of Jainism to Indian philosophy, the Jain philosophy to Indian philosophy. So this is the context in which we have to understand where on one side we have the arms and ammunitions piling up, on the other side you have all mental and physical health issues. And today the children are deprived of their basic education in this pandemic situation. So they will need more philosophers and psychologists for their mental well-being. So this is the role that you need to fill up. Okay, so this is the context in which I'll be talking. Coming to Jainism, Indian culture is an amalgamation of two cultures, the Vedic culture and the Shramanic culture. And you will be having lectures related to different schools of Vedic culture and the Shramanic culture. Under Shramanic culture, we have two main schools, the Jaina school and the Buddhist school. I leave the Charvak school because it is not a Shramanic culture, and I will not indulge into Buddhism. I straight away come to Jainism. So Jainism is both a philosophy and a religion. What is philosophy and what is religion? Religion is a way of life and philosophy is a view of life. And Jainism gives us both. It tells us what life is, how to live life, and what we need to do, what are the do's and don'ts. So that comes in the part of religion. Now the meaning of the word religion comes from the root verb relega, which means to connect. To connect man with God. In Jainism, it is not God, the creator God, but the Godhood that is in all of us. The Godhood, the divinity that is in all of us. So religion should help you to connect with the divinity, and that is possible through spirituality, that is connect to your own self. And then when you are connected to your own inner core, and then you look upon everybody as your own self, you are connected with the entire universe, and of course even environment, the microorganisms, the macroorganisms, the entire cosmos, you are connected. But if you are not connected with your inner core, you are neither connected with God, you are neither connected with your fellow beings, you are neither connected with environment. So Jainism is an environment-friendly and eco-friendly religion, and moreover, I would say that it is a non-violent, spiritual, enlightened, compassionate way of life that Jainism promotes. So compassion not just for the human beings, compassion for the animals, for the insects, for the microorganisms, for earth, water, fire, air, and plants. Also, every creature has its role to play. So when talking about contribution of Jainism, this I feel is the greatest contribution, that Jainism talks about life in earth, water, fire, air, and plants. And you are not supposed to, when I say you, I mean we are not supposed to exploit the environment for our materialistic goals. Okay, so religion should serve this purpose. If it doesn't serve this purpose, then somewhere it becomes a dogma, it becomes a ritual, it becomes a blind faith, etc. And what is philosophy? The word philosophy, it is love for wisdom. Love for wisdom means what? Love for the inner core, which is full of knowledge, vision, bliss, and power. Okay, so how you view life, how you view your own self, that is more important than even a religion. So without darshan, so darshan has a very broad meaning when compared to philosophy. So darshan involves the word drishti, drashta, drishya, and the view as such. Darshan means the view. What is your philosophy of life? How do you view life? Do you view life that you are a human being and you are born to eat, drink, enjoy, make merry? Or you view life with a higher goal? You want to seek the truth, you want to find the truth, You want to evolve spiritually. So Jainism says that there are two permanent addresses of this jiva. Jainism talks of the jiva and the ajiva. Jiva means the living, ajiva means the non-living. They are the two components of the entire universe, which science says as living thing and non-living thing. So this jiva has been in transmigration since time immemorial. So the concept of soul, the concept of karma, the concept of rebirth, they are presuppositions in Jain philosophy. We presuppose that you believe in these three concepts. Only then you can understand Jainism and take to Jainism and reach the highest level. Okay, so this jiva has been in transmigration since time immemorial. And there are two permanent addresses of this jiva. One, the micro level, which we call it as Nigoda. Okay, the microcosm. And the next address is that of the liberated souls. And we as humans, our duty is to realize the godhood in us and evolve to the spiritual level. If we fail to evolve to the spiritual level, we will go back to the micro level. We will go back to the micro level. It is because of this transmigratory cycle, the Jains follow the concept of ahimsa, truth, non-violence, ahimsa, that is non-violence, truthfulness, non-stealing, self-restraint, non-attachment. These values are not simply for the sake of values. They have a higher goal. And that goal is the spiritual elevation, the spiritual upliftment, or the spiritual evolution of man. Okay, so when you see how Jainism has come down, so Jainism is not a religion that is founded by any person. It is a beginningless religion and it is an endless. It will always be there. As long as suffering is there, as long as bondage is there, as long as karma is there, Jainism will continue to guide us on the path of liberation. So you have the concept of soul, I told you. It is the soul that transmigrates. Okay, and then why does the soul transmigrate? Not because of karma, because of one's own ignorance. When you are in a state of ignorance or perversion or delusion, the karmic particles stick to you and these karmas then condition you. Okay, the karmas are non-living in nature, but because you associate yourself with them, they get the power to condition you. It is like a person who does not take to any drinks and drugs. He is sane. He can conduct himself very well in the society. But once he is drunk, then the drinks, they take over him and they condition him. So under the influence of the drinks and drugs, man behaves abnormally or in a different way. In the same way, the drinks and drugs are not living. They are non-living, but they have an impact on you. In the same way, the karmas are non-living, but they have an impact on you. When you do not choose spirituality, you choose materialism, you choose delusion, ignorance, perversion, then the karmas condition you, and these karmas in turn, we blame them that they are the cause for our transmigration. The jiva does not want to take up its responsibility. It does not want to be responsible for itself. So they put the blame on karma. So the jiva, you call it as jiva or soul or atman or brahman or uir or consciousness. In philosophy, in psychology, they'll call it consciousness. In different, they call it as chida, chitta. Okay, different names. The names are different. But what is the essence? That we are all consciousness. We are all Satchidananda Swarupa. Sat means existence. Chit means consciousness. And Anand means bliss. This is our nature. And how we understand our own self. How we understand our own self, that is Samyak Darshana. Okay, understanding our own self is Samyak Darshana. Knowing our own self is Samyak Jnana. And being our own self is Samyak Charitra. Right faith, right knowledge, and right conduct. When these three become right, then the jiva comes on the path of liberation and then it reaches the liberated state. And until and unless it comes on the path of liberation, it will continue to transmigrate. Okay, so the next contribution of Jainism is the concept of bondage and liberation. In different traditions, they say the grace of God. भैया ये दरवाजा बंद कर दो भैया. In different traditions, they say that it is because of time or it is because of the grace of God that we are subject to bondage or liberation as such. But in Jainism, there is no role for a higher authority to manipulate you or to make you dance according to his tunes. Okay, so Jainism does not believe in a creator God. But although creation and destruction is happening at the micro level and at the macro level, at the atomic level and at the cosmic level, every moment, everything is subject to origination, change, and permanence. So this, I feel, is a very, very important concept in Jainism, which is highly philosophical. When you understand the deep philosophy, applying the logic, only then the real spirituality or the real ethics has sense. But without applying the logic, if you blindly take to the philosophy or the religion, then it amounts to perversion and it amounts to bondage, it amounts to the transmigratory cycle. So another concept that is important over here is to understand that bondage, that we alone are responsible for bondage and liberation. And bondage is not because of doing something. Bondage is because you're not understanding. You means we are not understanding reality correctly. So what is reality? The Tattvartha Sutra says, Utpada Vyaya Dravya Yuktam Sat. Sat means reality. This reality is characterized by Utpada. Utpada means origin. Vyaya means change. And Dravya means permanence. So reality is both originating and changing as well as permanent. So it seems to be a contradictory thing. How can something which is permanent be originating and changing? And how something which is originating and changing be permanent? Okay, so I'll give you the example over here. You have a gold bangle. You break that gold bangle and you make a gold coronet. You make a small tiara out of it. Now, the gold bangle has been changed, it has been destroyed, and a coronet, a simple coronet has been made, that is origination. But the gold is permanent or not? Has anything happened to the gold? No, previously in the gold bangle also it was gold, and in the tiara, in the coronet also it was gold only. So from the gold point of view, the gold bangle is permanent. But from the bangle point of view, from the mode, from the modification point of view, it is impermanent. In the same way, the jiva or the soul is characterized by consciousness, knowledge, perception, bliss, etc. That knowledge, nature is permanent. But the mode of the knowledge, previously it was listening to Manikandan sir, now we are listening to Priya ma'am. Okay, so the pariyai, the knowledge mode has changed. It is like the fan that is fixed and yet moving. So Atma is fixed, having the nature of knowledge, but the knowledge that it has every moment is changing. It is with origination, with change, with origination, with change. It is like the waves of the ocean. The ocean is permanent, but the waves are changing. So Atma or the Jiva or consciousness is a fountain of knowledge and bliss and vision and power, infinite knowledge, vision, bliss and power. Okay, and the modes of that qualities are also changing. As the atoms are there, the molecular structure keeps on changing. So this way, origination and change and permanence are inherent, immanent in all of the jiva and the ajiva, which we call it as creation. Okay, so even without a creator, the creation process is going on, and the omniscience, the pure souls. Jainism worships the arhats. Like in the starting, you all chanted the Namokar mantra, no? Namo Arhantanam, Namo Siddhanam. So who are the arhats and siddhas? Whom do the Jains worship? There are thousands of Jain temples. They say that Jainism is a religion without God. But then how come there are so many temples? So we say that the Jains are those who believe in pure souls as God. So, and it says that anybody and everybody can evolve to that highest level of arhathood. Okay, so the meaning of the word arihanta, namo arihantanam. So Ari means Shatru. Shatru means enemy. Who are our enemies? There are no enemies outside. We are our own enemy. Our ignorance, our perversion, anger, conceit, deceit, greed, jealousy, all these negative qualities in us are the Ari. And when you use the tool of philosophy and you overcome your inner enemies, then you yourself are Arihanta. And to reach that level where there are no enemies, there are 18 sets of blemish or enemies. We talk of the 18 doshas, hunger, thirst, sleep. All these things are our enemies. These are not our natural state. So when we awaken ourselves, these enemies will leave us. And as long as we don't awaken us, we are overpowered by these enemies and we become our own foe, our own enemy. So Acharang Sutra says, you are your own friend and you are your own enemy. When you choose philosophy and the right path, you are your own friend. And when you don't philosophize, when you don't have the right vision of life and reality of your own self, then you are your own enemy. So to reach the level of arhathood, that is the Siddha state. You have to accomplish a state where it is pure knowledge, pure bliss, and complete purity, where there is no ignorance, where there is no rebirth, where there is no karma, no hunger, no corona, nothing. A disease-free life, anxiety-free life, a blissful life. So that is the accomplished state. That is the state of the Siddhas. So when you say Namo Siddhanam, you are bowing down to the pure souls who have reached the Nirvana state. So one contribution of Jainism, I feel, is the Namokara Mahamantra, which is very secular. It does not say Namo Mahavira, Namo Rishabha, Namo Parshvanatha. It is Namaskar or obeisance to all the Arhats. Whosoever has reached that level of perfection, perfect knowledge, omniscience, so they are the Arhats. And second, the Namo Siddhanam is to the souls who have liberated themselves in Nirvana. Only the soul state, no body also. Arhats have a body, but the Siddhas are without the body also, only the pure soul. And how you reach that level? That is the state of Acharya, Ayariyanam, Uvajjayanam, Upadhyaya, and Sahunam, that is Sadhu. You have to do the sadhana. You have to come on the path and accomplish that path. Okay? Is there any problem? Yeah, no. Yeah. So you have to come on the path. So Acharya is one who follows the divine path, the spiritual path, the ethical and the moral path, and inspires others to follow. So he is the Acharya, the head of the congregation. And Upadhyaya are the teachers. They are well versed in the scriptures and they teach others the scriptures. They are the monks, the ascetics, the Upadhyaya. And Sadhus, the Sadhus are the Jain monks and nuns who walk barefoot, who do not use electricity and who do not possess anything, and they have given up all material comforts to seek the higher spiritual goal. Okay, so when we come on this path, we can also reach the state of Arihanta and Siddha. So this is the meaning of the Namokara mantra, and I feel it is called as Maha Mantra because there is no worship of any particular person in this mantra. So this is one contribution, and it is Anadi Ananta. It is beginningless and it is endless. This kind of philosophy will ever be there to guide mankind. And all the Arhats are of two types: the Tirthankar Arhats and the ordinary Arhats. The Tirthankar Arhats we have from Rishabha to Mahavir. We have 24 Tirthankars who followed the path, who practiced it, who perfected it, and then they preached it. Then they established the Jain congregation, which is fourfold in the form of sadhus, sadhvis, shravak, and shravika. Okay, so whoever comes under this congregation, they follow the path of non-violence for reaching the higher spiritual level. so that they don't transmigrate, they don't take rebirth, they don't suffer endlessly in this transmigratory cycle. Okay, so the Tirthankas are also called as jinas. The arhats are also called as jinas. Now, what is the meaning of the word jina? Jina comes from the root verb ji, which means to conquer. And those who have conquered themselves are called jinas or arhats or siddhas. And those who want to conquer themselves are called Jains. So Jain is not a community or a caste or a creed. If you want to overcome your laziness, your ignorance, then you are a Jain. Not necessary that you have to be born in a Jain family. Okay, so the Jains are followers of Jinas, and Jinas are conquerors. So they have told us to conquer ourselves. So to conquer, how do we conquer our own self? By conquering the 5 senses, the sense pleasures, the 4 passions, that is anger, conceit, deceit, greed, and 10th is the mind. And all this is possible only through deep meditation. So I feel the greatest contribution of Jainism to Indian philosophy is that all the Tirthankas are in the meditation posture. When you study the Jain art, architecture, iconography, you will see that all the 24 Tirthankar images look alike. Only with the symbol you can say this is, if it is a bull, then it is Rishabha. If it is a lion, then it is Mahavir. If it is a snake, then it is Parshvanatha. Otherwise, all the Tirthankars are in the meditation state. And I'll just show you how that state is. You can look at my video over here. You can see over there the image in the meditation posture, and with their eyes semi-closed or open, and they are telling us, look within, know thyself, tattvamasi, thou art that. So when you know yourself, only then right faith, right knowledge, right conduct happen, and only then, and that right faith, right knowledge is because of the philosophy, and the right conduct is the religion part. Okay, so that is why Jainism is both a religion and a philosophy. Now, coming to the branches of philosophy, you have metaphysics, ethics, epistemology, logic, aesthetics, axiology, etc., etc. And when you come to study contribution of Jainism to Indian philosophy, I would say the next contribution is the metaphysics. Jainism talks about the 7 tattvas. The 7 tattvas. What are those? Jiva, ajiva. Jiva means jivati iti jivaha. That which lives is called as jiva. The body is a dead body if the consciousness is not there, if the jiva is not there. What is the difference between you and a dead body? In Tamil we say, no, sattu poichu. Settu poichu. What do you mean by settu? Settu means adula irukra sattu poichu. The what was essence in it has gone. Now the body is subject to decay and death. So very soon you have to dispose the body. Otherwise the bacteria, the microorganisms will multiply, and then there will be lot of other diseases, etc. So jivati iti jiva, that which lives. Today it is living in this body. Yesterday it was in another body. Tomorrow it will be in another body. This jiva will continue to transmigrate until and unless it realizes itself. So that self-realization is called as samyak darshana. Okay, and only then the right path begins, and then the jiva rises to the higher level. So all the Tirthankars in their past life were ordinary beings like you and me. They must have been animals, they must have been beasts, they must have been humans. But when they realized themselves, they came on the path of liberation, they reached the highest level, and they spoke to us from that platform that you too can rise to that level. Okay, so Jainism teaches both. First, I am talking about the Jain metaphysics, the jiva and the ajiva. So the atma or the consciousness is the jiva, the body, the mind, the senses, all these are ajiva. This body does not know that this is a body. The one who knows is me, is the consciousness. This body is not living. I am not the body. As Ramana Maharishi said, I am a soul, I am different from the body, and I am eternal. Okay? Hu Atma chu, hu Nitya chu, Sharir thi bhinna chu. I am an Atma, I am not an ordinary Atma, I am a divine soul. Okay, and I am eternal. There is no death for me, and I am different from this body. So when this wisdom, when this knowledge, when this faith guides us, then it becomes right faith. Otherwise, it remains a mere ritual or a mere blind faith or whatever it is. So Jainism talks about the two realities, Jiva and Ajiva. Now, when this Jiva and Ajiva come together, this karma, the passions, the body, all these are Ajiv. When they come together, it is called as Asrava, influx of karma. Okay, when the Jiva is not in its own state, spiritual state, in the meditative state, then it is taking to the body, mind, speech, activity. So as soon as there is an action on the part of the Jiva, there is a reaction in the environment and the karmas come and stick to the Jiva. So that coming of the karma and the Jiva together is called as influx of karma or asrava. When the Jiva realizes itself and meditates upon itself, then that state will lead to stoppage of karma. So that is called as samvar. And when you take to fasting and meditation and service and very deep meditation, then all the karmas leave the soul. So that is called as nirjara or annihilation of karma. And as long as the Jiva and Ajiva are together, it is bondage. And when the Jiva and Ajiva are separated, bondage, that is bandha, and when the Jiva and Ajiva are totally separated, that state is called as moksha. So moksha is not a place. Moksha is that state of the soul which is inside us. And it is pure. Okay. How it is pure, then for that I have to talk about the theory of knowledge. That will take another half an hour, 1 hour. So if you want that, then we'll have to do another exercise altogether. Okay, am I with you, Manikandan sir? Am I with all of you?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So this is the Jaina metaphysics, and the influx of karma can be good and bad. When you take to the right path, non-violence, non-stealing, truthfulness, contentment, etc., then you get good karma. And when you take to violence, when you take to addictions, when you take to hurting others, when you take to abusing, when you take to exploitation, then the karmas that we get is papa, or the negative karmas, for which we have to pay a price again, for which we have to be paying a price again. So that way you see, a person who knows his own self, in that knowledge, in that light, he will be interacting with other creatures also, and that will promote environmental awareness, social consciousness, etc., etc. So I'm proud to tell you, friends, that no war has taken place in the name of Jainism. Even though so many Jains have fought many great wars, but you can be fearless of the Jains. You won't come across a Jain who is a terrorist or a butcher or a person who will kill you in the name of religion. So this, I think, is the greatest contribution of Jainism to the culture of peace and non-violence and harmony and all that. So this is the metaphysics part. So now the details of these 7 tattvas, you know, the Punya, Papa, the 9 tattvas, you have around, 115, more than 115, 215 subdivisions of all these, which we teach at the university level. So this is about the metaphysics. So you understand you are the Jiva, you don't want karma. Then what you do, you take to the ethics. If you want to expedite the path of liberation, then you become a Muni, or you want to balance your social life and your spiritual life, then you take to the householder's vows, you take to the Anuvratas, partial non-violence, partial non-stealing, etc., etc. And then you balance your spiritual life and your material life, and you progress on both levels. Okay, so that is the ethics part. And here, when you take Jaina ethics, you find 3 basic components. The first one is related to self-realization. Self-realization. You have to have the right understanding of the God, of the Guru, and of the Shastra. And then you have the right understanding of the 7 tattvas. You have the right understanding of the self. Then that is self-realized. That will lead to self-realization. And after that comes the vows. That is the Anuvratas or the Mahavratas. And then the third component is Sallekhana, that is the art of dying. So Jainism doesn't tell you to die, but death is inevitable. Whether you are on the World Trade Center or whether you are on, whether you're the Prime Minister or President or anybody, we all have a date with death. But do we know how to face death? Do we know the art of Samadhi Maran, which even the Vedic tradition talks about? Do we know Sallekhana? What is Sallekhana? Samyak Lekhan. Samyak means in the right way, seeing yourself and crushing your karmas, crushing your inner enemies. That is Sallekhana. So you have to die in a meditative state, not die. When death comes, you have to be fearless. You have to die like a hero. I'm not the body. I'm the soul. I will meditate on the soul. The body is going to be separated. So there is death neither for the soul nor for the body. The body will disintegrate, and it will, the atoms that constitute the body will take another form. So that body is also indestructible, and the Atma is also indestructible. Then what is birth and death? When the Jiva and the body come together, we call it birth, and when they are separated, we call it death. But there is no such thing as birth and death, because everything is Anadi and Ananta. It is just coming together and drifting apart. So this is the ethics part, one component which talks about the self-realization. So for this, you should read the literature of Kunda Kunda. Acharya Kunda Kunda and his works of Samay Sar, Pravachan Sar, Niyam Sar, and Ashtapahud and all these things, they are marvelous pieces of literature. In my 35-40 years of studying philosophy and religion, I have not come across an author and a philosopher like Kunda Kunda. Without Kunda Kunda, Jainism is not the real Jainism, and in whose life Kunda Kunda is not there, they will not understand the reality. Okay, so Kunda Kunda is the glorious gem as far as Jain philosophers is concerned. Of course, there have been illustrious philosophers in the Jain tradition. We have 100,000 logic works and beautiful pieces of devotional literature, narrative literature, all in Prakrit, Sanskrit, Apabhramsha, and the regional languages. Of course, in Tamil and Kannada and Marathi and Gujarati. So, Jaina thinkers have enriched Indian literature, Indian philosophy, Indian art, architecture, iconography, and the social fabric of the continent, you can say. So this is about the ethics, and the next comes epistemology. Jainism talks about the 5 types of knowledge. The first one is the Mati Gnan, the knowledge that we acquire through senses and mind. Through senses and mind. It is the soul that knows and sees. With the help of the senses and mind, we call it as sensory knowledge, that is Mati Gnan. Okay? And the decisive knowledge is called as Shruta Gnan. Supposing I tell you that there is a bomb under your chair. What you have got, you have heard it, and you have got the knowledge that there is a bomb. But immediately, what do you decide? Either flee from that place or call the bomb squad people. So this decisive knowledge, this wisdom, okay, this discrimination is called as Shruta Gnana. Okay, and knowing things that are beyond the beyond the limitation of your eyes. Like, for example, what is happening on the other side of the room, what is happening on the other side of the plane, or whatever it is, that is called as clairvoyance or Avadhi Gnana. Okay, and then cognizing the minds of others, we call it as telepathy. One second. We call it as telepathy or Mana Pariyagnan. And the last and the most supreme is called as Kevala Gnana, that is omniscience. Okay, so this omniscience, Kevala Gnana, is our capacity, is our inherent nature. Every jiva is potentially divine, and this Kevala Gnana, omniscience, is latent in all of us. And when we take to meditation and we manifest this Kevala Gnana, then that state is the Arhat state. Okay, so when you understand your divine nature, you take to the spirituality, then your knowledge becomes Mati Gnan, Shruta Gnan. Otherwise, it is Mati Agnana and Shruta Agnana. Okay, so in spite of all the arms and ammunitions and the technological and the scientific know-how, we do not have the Mati Gnan, the basic reasoning sense that what we are supposed to do and what we are doing. So our knowledge is in the wrong direction, our vision is in the wrong direction. So in this context, philosophy is very, very, very important. So you all as philosophy students, do not undermine your studies or your role as far as mankind is concerned. You may not be able to earn a thick, say, 5-digit salary, but the contribution that you do to the society will get you definitely greater karma, and you will be on the higher ladder of evolution. Okay, so Jainism doesn't believe in conversion, but of course it believes in the highest conversion from materialism to spirituality, from ignorance to enlightenment, from bondage to liberation, from the transmigratory cycle of suffering to the blissful state. So if you can convert yourself to that, that will be the service that you're doing to yourself. So first comes self-help. Like when you're traveling in a flight and they give the instructions, no, first wear your mask if the oxygen level decreases, and if you're on a danger zone, then first wear your mask and then help others to wear your mask. In the same way, Jainism says, first you realize yourself, you purify yourself, you liberate yourself, and if possible, then help others. Okay, that is why Jainism has not spread far and wide, because it demands perfection from each and every person. And how many people are committed for that? So I would say that Jainism will never become a world religion, because you can't imagine all the people all the time following non-violence. There will be violence also, there will be non-violence also. And just as they say that all wars have to end in peace. So the end of all violence is non-violence only. Then why does man take to violence? So this is the Kali Yuga, or the Pancham, fifth era that we are living in. And that is why, this is nature's way of balancing things. Okay, now coming to the next contribution, the threefold path of liberation, which I've already touched upon. And then there are 15,000 Jain monks and nuns philosophizing, doing philosophy, teaching the metaphysics, ethics, non-violence, and the higher spiritual goal, as Ramana Maharishi and so many people have taught. And then Jainism talks about the 3 principles, very important 3 principles. What are they? The 3 A's. Can I ask any of the students who know the 3 A's of Jainism? If I can ask Manikandan sir. Okay, so all pin drop silence. Fine, no problem. Am I audible? Can somebody reply to me?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Yes, it's audible.
It's audible.
Okay, the 3 A's of Jainism. The first A is ahimsa. Not to hurt even a small creature, not to think ill of anybody. Even a terrorist is potentially divine, but he is misguided. Like they say, no, that the missiles are guided. You have to tell the missile where to fall. So science can tell missile where to fall, but who is going to tell man how to use those missiles? That is the biggest challenge today. Okay, so the 3 principles are ahimsa, and at the environmental level, you see that today all the trees are gone. The animal species extinction is there. The environmental degradation is there. What we see is only urban jungles. So for me, a Jain should plant more and more and more of trees, eco-friendly life, not to hurt any creature, because if you hurt anybody, that karma will bounce and come back to you in the form of any kind of suffering. If not in next life, and if not in this life, in next life. So we have to have faith in the concept of karma. And that faith will guide us to do the right karma and to evolve to the state of no karma. Okay, so that is one thing. So ahimsa. Second one is anekantavada, multi-dimensional viewpoint. Looking at reality, like I told you just now, no, the gold bangle, it from the gold point of view, it is permanent. From the bangle point of view, it is impermanent. Likewise, you and I, from the soul point of view, you and I are permanent. But with respect to the body, we are all impermanent. With respect to this life, next life, we are all impermanent. Everything is passing off. Everything is passing off. Like they say, no, you cannot step into the same river twice. The river that you stepped in a while ago is not the same water that you step again. It has changed. The water has changed. The water is gone. What water you step in now is different. So change is permanent. And permanence is also dynamically changing. Like the fan is steady yet running. It is running yet it is steady. So two contradictory reals coexist in the same substance. So this Anekantavada, which talks about the concept of soul, the concept of reality. So we do this logic paper very beautifully in the department, and there are 11 tools of logic which we apply, and Anekantvad is one of the tools. So Anekantvad, Syadavad, and Nayavad, and so many other concepts are there, which is very, very important to understand the deep reality. And then comes aparigraha. Parigraha means attachment. Aparigraha means detachment. So when you are attached to your own self, only then you are detached from the outside world. And this attachment comes in the form of meditation. That is why all the Tirthankar images are in the meditation posture. They are so absorbed in their own soul that the entire universe is reflected in them. But still they are not bothered about seeing the universe. They are not interested in what is happening outside. They are so preoccupied with themselves. Okay, so how you do that? That is philosophy, that is spirituality. So that is very, very deep as far as the Jain tradition is concerned. And next we have the Jain community. It is primarily into trade and commerce and into philanthropic activities. Out of the 16,000 animal welfare shelters, the Goshalas, the Pinjra poles, you will see that the Jains construct lot of animal welfare shelters. They do lot of philanthropic activities, helping people with their education, the basic things. So this I feel is another contribution of the Jains. And initially, the first Tirthankar, Rishabha, not Tirthankar. Before becoming a Tirthankar, he was a king. So we call him as Raja Rishabha. He taught 6 things to mankind. What are those? The first one is Asi, second Masi, Krishi, third one, then Vanijya, Vidya, Shilpa. What are these 6? I'll just quickly tell you. Asi is how to use weapons for your day-to-day life. How to burn the fire, how to use the wheel, how to use the instruments. So that is Asi. Okay, and Masi is the stationary thing. So we believe that Raja Rishabha had 2 daughters and 100 sons, and he taught the Brahmi script to his daughter Brahmi. Okay, and then Krishi, agriculture. Okay, and then Vanijya, that is trade, Vidya, that is education, 72 arts and crafts, and Shilpa, that is arts and crafts. So it was Raja Rishabha who taught the 72 arts and crafts. So this is how we have to take to life. We have to take to agriculture, we have to take to the basic arts and crafts and the basic trade. So we always try to act locally, but think globally. And everything is interconnected. I'll just quickly show you one example how interconnected we are. I always do this exercise if I go for a lecture. For example, I show you this bit of paper. Okay, this bit of paper you all can see. I ask you, can you see the clouds in this? Can you see the clouds in this paper? You will say no. Okay, or you may say yes. I'm not here in a position to interact with your answers. How do you see clouds in this? Is it like this? I do like this and then I see the clouds? No, it is not like that. From where did this paper come? From the trees. Okay, from where did the trees come? Because of the rains. And from where did the rains come? From the clouds. So no cloud, no rain, no rain, no trees, no paper. So not a single sheet of paper we should be wasting. But how much paper we waste every day? So much of global warming, climate change, species extinction, environmental degradation. All this is because of the spiritual bankruptcy of mankind. We are spiritually bankrupt, and we are trying to fill our our bank accounts and so much of gold and silver and all these things are of no use. In this corona time, 1.5 years, we have not used our jewelry, we have not used our one second. So in this pattern, we have not used our things which we valued the most. They are of no use to us. And what is important? Good health, good water, good air, the basic the basic needs. That is most important. And we have left these. So nature has punished us in this form. Okay, and that is why Jainism gives lot of thought to nature cure. Do not take the medicines. Come to nature. Your body is made of the 5 elements. Through 5 elements, you can do all the healing. And fasting is a very, very, very important exercise in the Jain community. Now the Chaturmas is going to come. Today is Panchami. From Paurnami, the Chaturmas is going to start and the Jains will be fasting. Okay, so fasting, intermittent fasting. I'll request you all to see the videos of Subha Jain. Subha, now she calls herself Subha. Beautiful videos on intermittent fasting and many other things. And watch this video of autophagy. When you fast, what happens is, the day you have not eaten, the liver will produce one element called lysosome, and that will eat all the dead protein in your body and convert it into good protein. But when you don't fast, the dead protein stays in your body, and it is there that the bacteria, the corona, the virus and everything will come and infect you. So that way you see philosophy, religion, good health and the social conscious, they're all interconnected. So when you study philosophy, study it thoroughly and try to integrate lot of disciplines to take home, to take to mankind the art of living, the art of dying, the art of living a peaceful life, and all these things are very, very important. Okay, so next contribution I would say is that the Jains have a very good record of taking to fasting, and if that fasting is based on the very deep understanding of spirituality, only then it will lead to the path of liberation. Otherwise it will lead to good health, good wealth, good happiness, not good happiness, happiness, or the stay in heaven, etc., etc. So fasting is very, very common, very, very important as far as Jains are concerned. The Jain children, right from their childhood, they are not taught, they learn. They learn the Namokar mantra in the womb itself. The mother will be chanting it, and the fasting culture, the non-violent culture, everything comes to them right from the childhood. Okay, a child at the age of 16, 17, he will be at the dining table with his parents and he'll be discussing business. So the business acumen of the Jains is marvelous. And the contribution of the Jains to the Indian economy, I don't have to tell, you can Google and you can find out. Okay, and coming to Jain websites, the jainworld.com is the biggest portal. There are 300 websites on Jainism. The Jain food is very, very popular across the globe. You go to any 5-star hotel, you go to in the flights, they will offer you Jain food. So what is Jain food? Basically, not to take to food, taking the food of philosophy is the real nature of the Atma. But because you're in a body, you have to put something in the body. You have to take only a plant-based diet. And that too, no underground roots and stems. So Jainism because plants are only one sensed creatures, that you have to take very, very little, and that too on Ashtami, Chaturdashi, other days you have to give up that also, and take to deep breathing, pranayam and all these things. That is a way of healing. That is a way of healing, the spiritual holistic healing. So we have a paper in the department, meditation and personality development, art of right living and holistic health, Jain food and thought and culinary skills. All this we teach at the department. So I invite all of you to come to the university and study Jainism with us if you really like this philosophy, so that you can take it to the world at large. And so the Jain food is very important, and Jain yoga. It was Patanjali who systematized yoga. But before Patanjali, all the Tirthankars were there. And you see the Indus Valley civilization is a civilization of non-violence. And you find the in meditation posture, the iconography and all over there. So this culture of non-violence, this culture of meditation, this culture of spirituality. So we are all God gifted to be born in India and to inherit this culture. So we should take pride in marketing Indian culture to the world. But what is happening? We are aping the West. We are aping the West, but the West is trying to discover the East. They are learning Bharatanatyam, they are learning Sanskrit, and of late, at least in 10 universities in USA, Jain departments have been started. There are foreigners who are studying Jainism, writing articles on Jainism, writing books on Jainism and teaching Jainism. The Jains have helped the universities to establish these departments, but you won't find Jain academicians as you will find the foreign scholars. So I'll request you all to study philosophy very systematically and come up as good scholars, good thinkers, and not follow the West blindly, but make India proud of its culture. So this is one thing that I would like to tell the student community over here. And then the Jain literature is written in Prakrit language. The Jain Tirthankars, they preached in Prakrit, which is a language of the common man. And we have an exhaustive piece of literature, exhaustive literature in Prakrit, which was eventually translated in Sanskrit, in Hindi, in Gujarati, in Marathi, in then you have classical Tamil Jain literature also. 80% of the pre-Sangam literature is all contribution of the Jains, and 90% of the Kannada literature is old Kannada literature is contribution of the Jains. So the Jains have contributed immensely to all disciplines, whether it was to prose and prose and prosody, the language, whether it was to art, architecture, the social consciousness, and philosophy. Of course, I've told you about the metaphysics, the ethics, the spirituality, the Anekanta concept, etc. Okay, and then the Prakrit language is in different shades, the Upper Ardhamagadi, Shauraseni. So I have been teaching Prakrit for the past 20 years in Chennai, and this year I'm running 3 international programs. The first one is we are offering the MA Jainology online for the past 1.5-2 years, and then I have this Arugya Bohi Labham. Arugya means Arogya, how to live a life without medicines. So I conduct workshops related to that. And the third one is the Prakrit language learning program, which is a 1-year certificate course. So these are the 3 programs I'm doing, and I really take pride, and I'm so happy about sharing this knowledge and this talk with all of you. So Prakrit. And then when you go to a Jain temple, the art, architecture, iconography, you will come across you will come across so many beautiful paintings, so many beautiful carvings. The Jain temples, you see of Bhilwara, of Shravan Belgola, and all these places, they are of world class. And these places, they draw the attention of so many foreigners every year. Okay, and then we have the carvings of the thought paints, the man in the well on the walls of the temples. All this you can see for yourself. And I'll just end with one remark. There was one Korean who studied with us, and he did his electives and soft skill with us, and he was so fond of Jainism. that he continued his studies further, and he did his PhD on ethics. And he tried to find out the different ethical models of different religions. And he did a proper scientific study of the ethics part. And he did on Jain ethics also. And he came up with the conclusion that the Jain ethical model is the best model that any person, any religion can offer. So there I would say you that the solution for all the evils that man faces, the evil is not outside, it is inside us. And education should help us to realize that evil and overcome that evil. So it says, no, sa vidyaya vimuktaye. True knowledge is that which liberates. And as our university logo says, that learning promotes natural talent. Your natural talent is omniscience. So your learning should promote that omniscience. Only then it is true learning, and it should be an liberating experience and not a stressful experience. So this model sums up the contribution of Jain philosophy, and of course the concept of soul, the concept of karma, the concept of rebirth, the concept of multi-dimensional viewpoint, non-absolutism, anekanta, and all these are the important contribution of Jainism to Indian philosophy, Indian culture as such. So I would like to thank Manikandan sir for giving me an opportunity, and thank you all for your patient listening. So over to Manikandan sir. Any question answers I can take for another 10 minutes.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your scintillating presentation. I'm sure our participants, especially our students, have contributed immensely. As you have rightly said towards the end, Savidyaya Vimukte, that is the motto of our college, a Jain institution, which strives to give education to all parts of the society in general. Thank you so much, ma'am, for being a part of our lecture program. I think we are running out of schedule. So I request Dr. S. Manikandan, our HOD, to introduce the next speaker. The formal vote of thanks will be towards the end. So
before that, Prasanna, any questions from the participants?
Because I can leave, no, after my lecture, I can leave, no, sir.
Oh, okay. If there are any questions, we'll take one or two.
Or just three responses, from the audience.
Madam, we are very thankful to you for giving us such an enlightening lecture. Something like a compendium of Jainism has been just put in 1 hour. But one thing that there are two things which I wanted to know. With regard to the food, Jain food, can you please tell me which book or which writings of which Mahamuni is the Jain? Like, for example, what are the foods, name of the book in which this mentions about Jain's eating habits? That's number one. And is there a concept of sin in Jainism, ma'am? I've been wanting to ask you for a very long time. I thought this was an occasion, and with our students around, Thank you so much, ma'am, for being with us. We look forward to you, in few more meetings, ma'am.
Thank you. I'll answer your two questions very briefly. Please refer to this book, Jain Way of Life by Yogendra Jain. You go to eJain library, there are 20 to 30,000 books for free download. So you'll find this book, Jain Way of Life by Yogendra Jain. It gives you a lot of insights into Jain food habits and Jain culture and all that. And second thing, of course, the concept of sin is there in Jainism. The greatest sin is perversion, not knowing yourself. And then comes not taking to a disciplined life, that is avirati. Then comes kashaya, taking to the fourfold passions and violence, etc., etc. So 18-fold sins are there in Jainism. And my book is also there, Fundamentals of Jainism. If you want, I can just send it across to your college so that you can keep it in your library. Thank you for the question.
Madam,
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, madam, and thank you, Ananthakrishnan sir. Madam, my small doubt is, as
Yes,
you said, the suffering is not due to no karma, but due to the ignorance.
Mm.
And in the present situation, the pandemic, which is not my ignorance, how do you take this as in a Jainism, madam?
Yeah.
Why should I must be a victim in this? How to be a victor in this?
Yes, sir. First of all, we have to understand that our body is made of the 5 tattvas: earth, water, fire, air, and akash.
Okay.
So, because there is imbalance in the body, lot of toxins are there in the body, and where the toxins are there, there only the bacteria and the virus will breed. If your body is pure, then the toxins will not be the toxins are not there. Then the corona will come, but your fighter cells are ready to drive them away. Because you are having a weak immunity, and that immunity is because you are not having a good digestive system. Your digestive tract is impure. Your means our digestive
Okay.
tract is impure. Because of that only all the toxins are there in the body, and the germs and bacteria come to eat the toxins. Okay, I'll give you my example. There were I live in a building where there are 18 flats, and in 11 flats people were affected by the corona. But I was not at all scared of the corona, because for the past 20 years I'm following nature cure. I take to fasting, I take to fruit diet, I take to juice diet, I take to intermittent fasting, yoga, pranayam. All this is my way of life, sun bath, etc. So me and my husband, we do the yoga and everything, fasting, everything. We were not at all scared of the corona. So we asked the corona warriors, should we stay here or should we go somewhere during this time? They said, if you are positive, if you don't have any fear, you don't have to go anywhere. And we were helping those families with the problem. So had I been ignorant of my human anatomy and nature cure, then I would have also been scared. I would have also been affected by the corona. And even if corona comes in my body, my fighter cells are ready to drive them away. So everyday pranayam, everyday yoga is not a luxury today. It is a necessity as far as man is concerned today. So we have to integrate all the philosophies, philosophize, and take it to the world at large. Okay,
So
sir.
in a way, okay, great, madam, I understood. But in a way, the suffering is again, it is due to our ignorance.
Yes.
Ignorance of not maintaining our body properly.
No, first, ignorance is not knowing the science of health and wealth and happiness.
Okay, ma'am.
Even if
Thank
the
you.
body is affected by cancer, if you know the science of happiness, you won't suffer. Even though body is attacked you, the cancer has attacked your body
Okay.
because of
Thank
your previous karma. If you know the science of happiness, you won't suffer. If you don't know, then even if cancer is not there, you will be suffering. Oh, what will happen if corona comes? What will happen if cancer comes? So that anxiety disorder will build up.
Madam, whether I understood in this way, that is enduring a pain without suffering.
Yes, not enduring pain for the sake of pain. You are so deep into meditation that the pain is affecting your body and still you are not suffering. That is what all the Tirthankars have practiced and preached. I finished.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other questions?
Thank you,
The
ma'am.
madam has explained
I'm
wonderfully.
Sumitra.
Yes.
Sumitra, one sec. Sir is asking some question.
Okay, okay, sir.
Krishna Kumar, sir. Sir, please, sir.
Madam has explained Jainism wonderfully. I'm glad to have attended her lecture. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your
Thank you, sir.
response.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, Sumitra, can I take your question or your response?
Yeah, ma'am. That's really a wonderful presentation. It's very useful
Yeah.
for our students, especially. Your presentation is really good, ma'am. We are so impressed with your presentation. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And Manikandan, sir, thank you. Can I take your leave, sir?
Thank you. Yes, madam. Yes,
Yeah.
madam.
I wish everybody all the best. And I would like to say a hello to Arumugam, sir, who has been my colleague in the university also for some time. I'll take your leave, sir. Thank you, sir. Yes,
Sure, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you.
So that was